And so, Phil, I'm going to hand it over to you to take it off. Thank you so much, and welcome everyone to NGA's track.
Yeah, thanks so much, David. Hey, it's really great to be joining you today from NGA headquarters in Springfield, Virginia. I want to take a few moments to talk to you about how innovation is thriving here at this agency and what our aim points are, and I want to get you thinking about where you might fit in that. And so, if you've been listening to NGA over the last couple of years, you've heard a lot of talk about what we call the moonshot. The director has imparted strategic intent to the agency that draws metaphors from the 1960s space race, a great era in American history when industry and government and academia really united to win a race on behalf of the agency, or rather on behalf of the nation. And so our agency feels like we're at a time that is very similar to that, but perhaps with different stakes, right? Back in the 60s space race, we're trying to get a man on the moon. Today, we're contending with adversaries who are developing and delivering technologies that frankly threaten our security. And so the moonshot is designed to give us that unity of purpose and unity of effort here at the agency to get the workforce to rally around some of these outcomes that we're trying to deliver and to really make these things real. If you listen to the moonshot narrative, you'll see in there that we talk about holding adversary strategic forces at risk. And in my organization, where we develop the technologies that enable GeoInt, that really resonates with me. And I want to talk to you about that for a minute. When we say we want to hold adversary forces at risk, really what we're talking about are strategic relocatable targets. Those things that not only can do us harm, but the things that are really elusive for us to find and fix. And so, that just compounds the challenge for us because we're used to having decision space with the technology that we brought to bear in national security and on the battlefield. That decision space it's really shrinking with some of the technologies that the adversary is bringing. So to be able to find, fix, and frankly to finish some of those targets, we need to reclaim the decision dominance that's gonna enable us to get ahead of decision making that our adversaries are focused on. So, if you're familiar with decision theory, you've heard about John Boyd, an Air Force fighter pilot from the 1960s, kind of the same era as the space race. John Boyd had this concept called the OODA loop, which most of us still talk about today, right? And the idea was that in fighter pilot engagements, which happen very, very quickly, there's just a lot going on in a compressed period of time. The competitor who has the best information and who could make the best decisions faster, that's the competitor that's really going to dominate that engagement. And so, John Boyd tells us through his OODA loop model that speed matters. I mean, it really does, especially today. The interesting corollary to that is speed is relative, right? Speed is not an absolute concept when we're talking about decision dominance. It's relative. It's relative to your competitor or your adversary. And, you might think that's a good thing. Maybe, but, it actually can be kind of a challenging thing too, because the enemy today, the adversary today, whoever you might pick, they actually get a vote on how they accelerate their own technology. And so if our decision-making speed is relative, and if it really matters, we actually always need to be faster than those who we're trying to compete with here. For GeoInt, what that means is that we've got to deliver real capabilities that truncate processes that span hundreds of minutes today down to single-digit minutes. This is really the essence of my interpretation of the moonshot. The strategic intent gives us that unity of effort and the unity of purpose. But when I decompose all the actionable items that are kind of within that moonshot narrative, this decision dominance piece is what resonates most with me. And I focus on sensor to shooter. Getting that actionable data from our collection platforms through our processing and exploitation processes and getting it disseminated to those endpoints where it's going to be used. I will confess to you that I often focus on the warfighter problem more than anything else, because I do think that our warfighter customers have tighter timeline needs than any policymaker does in downtown DC. And I'm the type of guy who wants to tackle the more difficult problem, because I think if we fix that, if we're able to achieve that, everything else benefits tremendously from that, right? It's kind of like when I decide I want to go and enter a 10K because I need a new T-shirt. You'll find me out there training for a half marathon. With the logic being, if I'm able to tackle the more difficult challenge, then everything else will come that much easier. And so if you're hanging around NGA in my organization, where we develop and deliver all the technology capabilities that the agency uses, that's the philosophical overlay that you're going to detect here. We're trying to tackle the hardest problem that we can identify within this Moonshot Challenge. I would like to tell you that GeoInt is the panacea that's going to give us all of this knowledge and decision dominance that we want, but I know that's not true, and you know that too. GeoInt is absolutely foundational to all the intelligence and decision support that we provide as an agency to the nation's decision makers and to our warfighters. You really can't do it without GeoInt. It's the foundational layer. GeoInt, though, is not in any way a standalone layer. We've got to have those multi-int approaches that take all those traditional intelligence disciplines and make them available as layers so that we can resolve and get to certainty in tight timelines. When I talk to folks about this, I tell them, when you drive home every day from work, particularly if you live here in the DC area, you oftentimes are looking at that handset that one of the smartphone developers made for you. And you're often struggling with the traffic and trying to find your most efficient way home. That is a ton of GeoInt that you have at your fingertips there, but those are also layers of information that are not GeoInt, that are registered against your route and helping you make decisions, whether or not you want to depart the interstate route and get on the local roads, right? So those layers, not only the traditional layers that you would bring together to resolve the information, but even the non-traditional layers. And today we have some really interesting emergent non-traditional layers that are super promising in our quest to get what I call differentiating capability in our portfolio. When I say differentiating capability, what I mean is the ability to do things, to have tools, to employ capabilities that no one else quite has yet. And I've got a super high appetite for those differentiating capabilities, seeking to understand where they're emerging in academia and industry so that they can help us get to this data integration outcome that I'm looking for, that'll give us real sensor to shooter and give us the speed that we need. Sensor to shooter is important, but we've got to have the robust, resilient infrastructure that enables us to deliver this data to the decision-making endpoints. For policymaking, it's a challenge, but it's not too big of a challenge because we have robust, well-developed and good, reliable infrastructure around Washington, D.C., where senior policymakers reside. And frankly, for most of the United States, where various decision makers at their home stations might use our data, that works pretty well. As you might suspect, the real challenge is getting it to those endpoints in the operating environment, at those theater levels where we're going to be challenged at every turn, where competitors, even in the very, very early stages of any kind of crisis, they're gonna understand and examine and look to interdict, frankly, some of those pathways that we use to deliver GeoInt. And so there's this idea that you may have heard before of a global GeoInt nervous system. A lot of folks have kind of used this phrase, and for me, it's not cliche. I think that's exactly the mentality we need to overlay on the infrastructure requirements that have to be associated with this. I've got to have that nervous system extending to the extremities. It's got to be able to heal itself. It's got to have multiple pathways, redundancy and depth. It's got to be secure. It's got to be wrapped in layers of tissue and skin that's going to protect it from things that try to sever it. This type of redundancy and depth, I really believe, is gonna be what we're gonna need moving forward. Because let's face it, this is an information environment, and it's going to be contested as we navigate that spectrum from competition through crisis and into conflict, the really serious stages of decision support. If we don't have that redundancy and depth, if we don't have a resilient network that is above all secure in its ability to deliver this data to the endpoints, we're not going to get the outcome that we're after. And so this strategic narrative with these several pieces of really actionable direction that I could sink my teeth into along with my team puts us in a better place than we've ever been as an agency. We've got that focus that we need, and we're gonna execute relentlessly towards these outcomes. But here's what I want to tell you: fulfilling this strategic direction is not something that we think we're going to do all by ourselves here on the government side within the agency. We understand and we appreciate the need to work alongside our fellow DoD organizations, those IC agencies, those military organizations, and even those very specialized partners like Army Futures Command, AFWorks, Naval X, DIU, the National Security Innovation Network. Those are all the key partnerships, I think, that in addition to the exquisite technologies available to us out there in industry and academia, those are the partnerships that are really going to give us the glue that we need to bring things together. Advancing state of the art through enabling builders and makers, having our customers, the actual decision makers, even the tactical level warfighter decision makers, sitting alongside with our developers in what we call the NGA software way now. Navigating that journey to transform and modernize these digital workspaces where we live, eat, and breathe every day to deliver this decision dominance. That's where we want to be. We think that's what's going to allow us to bring the leading edge technology into the geo mainstream and accomplish the very difficult sensor to shooter outcome we're after. Technologies like AI ML, we're heavily focused on artificial intelligence and machine learning, looking at those automation capabilities that'll help us truncate those timelines. Obviously, cloud technologies are at the forefront of our interest. To give us that resiliency and that redundancy, and HPC getting that high performance compute power, as we bring in all of those diverse layers, the things I mentioned earlier that are new and exciting and differentiating. Those technology areas are really things that we'd like to engage upon and move forward in partnership on. If you've had access to our tech focus areas, those are good, consistent aim points for us as an agency. Advanced analytics and modeling, data management, getting the data right is a foundational task that we need to do up front. Practicing those modern software engineering techniques so that we're not bound by those traditional plotting linear acquisition cycles. And again, that automation thing that seems to be moving forward in so many portfolios out there in industry in particular, a keen interest in that. I will tell you that we've purpose-built an organization here at NGA to actually do some of these key things for us, to actually lead us towards integrating these technologies. Over the last year, we established an organization at NGA called the Data and Digital Innovation Directorate, DDI for short. This organization was purpose-built to be the catcher's mitt for these technologies, and also for operationalizing things like Project Maven on the DoD side, which we expect will become part of this portfolio in part or in total. So we're making these adjustments organizationally. We've made the adjustment philosophically, and we've got that appetite to lock arms with partners out there in industry and academia to make this happen. So how are we going to do this? Well, I want to end on a note describing what we call Moonshot Labs. The St. Louis ecosystem is incredibly important to this agency and frankly to the GEOINT capabilities of the nation. It's no secret that our new modern headquarters is emerging out there, and we have put in place in anticipation of that headquarters opening up in the years to come. We've put in place an unclassified collaboration space to enable some of that discovery in partnership with industry and academia. This is called Moonshot Labs. If you've heard of this, do me a favor and go ahead and hit Google. You need only plug NGA and Moonshot Labs in there, and the first hit that you'll get is probably going to be the link to the webpage that the agency has with some great information on Moonshot Labs. Purpose built. After reviewing and gaining an understanding from all the management and leadership literature, what a true unclassified collaboration space needs to be in order to make it happen. We have purpose built this facility to welcome you as our partners, to help us uncover these technologies, to help us sit side by side, developers and users, to really navigate this journey that needs to be accelerated. I would tell you, as a final thought, this competition, this moonshot, is kind of like the 60s space race in a lot of ways, but it's a little bit different. It's different in the fact that there are some existential implications for our nation here when we're grappling with the security that we've enjoyed over the last 250 plus years. This is about preserving the technology and security dominance that we've enjoyed and that our predecessors have secured for us as a nation. It's our job to secure it for those that are going to follow. So I'll stop there. I just want to thank you and tell you I really appreciate your interest in NGA and our mission, and I look forward to engaging with you in many of these areas in the future. And so I'll pause there and see if we have some questions. Okay, you know what? I see one question in the chat talking about UAS and counter UAS technologies to increase GEOINT capabilities. I'll make a comment. I'll make a comment on that if I have one more minute here to do it. NGA is deeply vested in particularly the data that we derive from UAS, and so I think that our appetite for diverse data streams coming in here to give us different GEOINT perspective from the very low level, tactical capabilities all the way up to the strategic capabilities. We're keenly interested in that. UAS that provide different phenomenologies or different sensing capabilities are important to us, and we provide some of those capabilities to our warfighters as well. The counter UAS technologies as kind of a defensive or protective capability to preserve our freedom of navigation in that tactical airspace are probably more aligned to the military portfolio than they are to the GEOINT portfolio, but certainly we have interest in ensuring that the UAS capability that we happen to provide for the warfighters is secure. Okay. I'll add that we've got a very focused warfighter support directorate here that has got their arms locked with tactical level warfighters across the military services that not only has a heavy focus on UAS technologies and data delivery, but is looking for all those differentiating capabilities that we might bring to bear to keep those things working in a very positive way. In terms of anything that I would commend to you to think about as you navigate the rest of the symposium over the next day or two, I'd ask you to focus on that idea of differentiating technologies. We've enjoyed as a nation and as an agency several periods of dominance where we had certain things, certain capabilities, certain tools that no one else had. Those gaps are narrowing. We all know that, whether it's commercial industry closing the technology gaps or whether it's our adversaries doing it. So I need to really think about leaping over current state of the art and getting those differentiating capabilities in place. Maybe it's a new phenomenology. Maybe it's a way we process the data. Maybe it's an AI/ML capability. But the things that that are going to give us that advantage that we want to sustain and broaden, and I want that gap to be increased every step of the way as we look at adversaries that are catching up on us. Think about differentiating capabilities and how they pertain to GeoInt. And if you come up with something, I would encourage you to reach out to my team. I know you're going to talk to Rick Meilenbeck next. Reach out to my team, knock on our door, and let's talk about what's on your mind. And I'll close with that. Thanks so much for giving me your time today. It's been a real pleasure to be able to engage with you, and I look forward to meeting some of you down the road out here.
Thank you very much, Phil.